going to be going over a lot of different things this morning. Good morning, Humphrey. First, we do have a couple of 8:30 market reports. One is the building permits and one is unemployment claims. And then at 10 o'clock this morning, we have the Philly Fed Manufacturing Index. I'm not going to do that this morning, Humphrey. I'm focused on the live edge of the market this morning, and I have a lot of things I actually want to go through. Okay. Let's go ahead and let's go back to gold. I want to start on gold this morning. You can see that the 1440 has flipped the ATR. It's come down to the congestion dot, and even though this bar looks like it's coming down, I actually think gold's going to go up, at least initially this morning, because we've got some ADXs that are overextended. You do see on the 720-minute chart that we have an ADX peak, so price should pull back to the ATR, which right now is at 1323.6. You also see on the 180 we have flipped the ATR, and it should actually come down and test this area around 1295.3. So this one, initially, we may go down this morning, then we would go up. You also see that over here on the 45-minute, gold is also at a congestion dot. So again, normally typical price behavior is it will come down to the congestion dot and then pop back up. Okay. Now the overextended ADXs that I was talking about actually over here on the 3-minute and on the 1-minute. I know that we should retrace back to at least 1301 because this is a 91.32 ADX. That's extremely oversold. Now the 3-minute is not extremely oversold, but I do think we're going to get divergence on this last bar, which again will cause it to come back to the ATR, which is now at 1303.1. Any questions on gold this morning? All right, let's go over and look at crude this morning. On crude, you do see that we have the magenta peak. It's retracing back to the ATR, which is at 103.75. And if I'm not mistaken, I told y'all I had anticipated crude to go up. Let me take that off and take this one off. Okay, as it stands right now, it is flipping the ATR over on the 720-minute chart. That 180-minute is moving up, and you are not overextended. However, you are overextended over here on the 45-minute chart. You can see that the ADX right now is at 85.34, so I would anticipate some sort of retracement on crude today. You've also overextended on the 3-minute, and the 12-minute is not yet overextended, but you are making divergence on the highs right now. Okay, so we should see some downward movement this morning, and then potentially the completion of the retracement back to ATR. Any questions on that one, guys? Now the only position to take until this comes in with a magenta peak would be to the long side. I wouldn't try to buck this trend right now. It's not divergence on the 12-minute, honey. It's divergence up here on the 45-minute. The 12-minute is down here. There is slight divergence there on the highs, though. This high is here. This high is lower. There's a slight divergence. It's already retraced the 720-minute, Humphrey. It's retracing on the 1440. I always expect it to complete a retracement back to the ATR unless something stops it. I don't see anything to stop it at the moment. No problem, Chris. The only time that price typically will stop is if you have congestion dots. I don't see any congestion dots. So as it stands right now, what's to stop it until it gets up here to 103.75? I don't see anything that could stop it at the moment. Don't buck magenta peak on a 1440 unless you just want to lose money. Now, that would be up to you, but you don't do it. It doesn't make good sense to buck that. Okay, over on the DAX this morning, we are retracing here, but this is not magenta peak, so it may go back to the ATR. It may not. I don't know. We've already completed this magenta peak retracement here. Did not make it to the congestion dot. It missed it by, I would say, about 20 points. It is right now heading down to this ATR. The ADX is not telling us at all, okay, what to expect. Now, we did have a magenta peak over here on the 180. It has completed the retracement, and the ATR is actually holding it up as it stands right now. We also, on the 45-minute, we have an ADX value of 68.4. 70 is the magical number that tells us it will be oversold. We also had a magenta peak on the 12-minute. It has retraced to almost 10 points of the ATR. This is one, when I say what would stop price, do you see this line of congestion dots here? That's what stopped price so far. That's exactly what I'm talking about. If you have something that will stop price, that's what you need to look at, okay? If you notice, we have a row of congestion dots on the 3-minute, and that, in essence, stopped price from retracing all the way back to the ATR, okay? Does everybody see that? The congestion dots are right here, and it's saying, okay, we're not going to retrace right now because we have found an area of resistance at 97.91. Now, let's go back and look at crude. Does anybody see the same scenario on crude? Does anybody see any congestion dots on crude? Anything that's going to stop that retracement. That's right. So if you're trying to go short against this, expect to lose money. Okay? I'm just telling you right up front, expect to lose it. That's your training lesson. The dots on the 1440 are way back here. You're retracing back here to the ATR. These dots do not look like we just saw over on the other one. They're no longer valid. They've already broken through there. This is going up, okay? What do you see up that's going to stop price? The only thing is the ATR. Nothing here, nothing here, nothing here, nothing here, nothing here, nothing here. Don't buck that trend. Got it? All right, let's go over and look at the NASDAQ. All right, how many of you were in the room yesterday when I said watch when price gets to 39.42? It will probably come down. And what has happened? It went right up there and then it started coming down. This is typical price behavior, okay? It goes up to the congestion dot, it finds resistance, then it comes down. And if it finds support here, it will go back up. Does everybody understand that? At the moment, over on the 180, it's actually breaking the ATR. You actually had a beautiful entry here earlier this morning on the NASDAQ, retraced back to the ATR, okay, and then came down. So as it stands right now, it's potentially coming down to the ATR here. There's nothing on the ADX that tells us that this will complete, okay? We do expect it, because of the 720, we expect it to come back down and test 38.8575, okay? On the 180 minute, you are breaking the ATR as it stands right now. This bar does not finish until 9 o'clock this morning. We are not overextended on the 45 minute. We have had a magenta peak over here on the 12 minute, and if you look at the 3 minute, you can see you had a congestion dot. It was right at 39.04. And in essence, it actually stopped price from going up further, okay? This is, again, it's just typical price behavior. I would expect it to at least come down to 38.9675. When it gets there, I would be watching the volume, but I know they're selling that high right now. The Delta is showing you that. Let's go over and look at the Dow. Dow, exactly the same thing. I pointed this out yesterday. The congestion dot was at 170.69, and let me see what that high was. Just open it up over here. That high was 170.69, so was the congestion dot, and it has been moving down since. The key is this ATR that is on the 180 minute chart. Will it hold? It is at 170.03. That is a line I would definitely put on my charts today, because that could determine whether the market continues up or whether it continues down. Any questions on the Dow? You see it flipped the ATR here, came back, tested the ATR here, did it on the Virgin volume. This is a setup I've been watching all morning on all of the indices. Of course, then it come down. Is what up? The Dow, if, and again, this is what it's dependent on. It's really dependent on whether this ATR holds it. If it holds, it's going to be up. If not, it's going to be down. Can you get the indicators for what platform, Andrew? They're available for NinjaTrader, TradeStation, and multi-charts. Yes, they are available on NinjaTrader. All of the indicators that you see on my chart right now, Andrew, are actually included in the Getting Started package. The meter window here, which I've not gone over yet, but we will, because we have some really good trades off of it, that is included in the silver or the platinum package. Okay, Andrew. No, you have no magenta peaks. It's not that you need to leave it alone, okay? You need to mark this line on your chart. It is 17, I'll just mark it over here. Wrong one. 17,703, okay? Up here you have 17,047. Then you also have the 7069 area from the 720 minute chart. So this green line right here currently is supporting price to go up. The problem is it's going to have to break this ATR, then it's going to have to break this ATR, then it's going to have to break this ATR. It's the same setup across all the indices. Humphrey. Just about every indices that I've looked at this morning is saying exactly the same thing. All right, let's go look at the ES. Okay, the ES has flipped this ATR. It's coming back right now to test the 1957.75 area. You've got a magenta peak that is coming in here, so it should go back at least to 1970. To get there, it's going to have to break the ATR here, and the buyers better come in because they ain't going to do it on what they got right now. They're trying to flip this ATR. I imagine by the end of this bar at 9 o'clock, that actually will hold. So I would actually put lines on my chart to represent that because it's probably going to be key areas today. There's your first line, and then right up above that you have 1970. And 1983 is your congestion dot. So it's going to have to break this, and then it may be a straight shot up to 1982. The dots are congestion dots. The 720-minute chart. They represent congestion area, Humphrey. Okay, we do have some people that actually trade the Russell, so I'm going to go through the Russell. Yeah, they were right up at the top, Bonnie, but I think yesterday started calling attention to them because I told you it probably bounced down off the congestion dot, and it did. Okay, on the Russell today, the 1440 is at 62. The 720-minute is at 68. Now, remember, 70 is oversold, okay? Right now, the 45-minute is retracing back to the ATR. You're flipping the ATR on the 12-minute chart. It should continue back to around 1143. Once it breaks that ATR on the 12-minute, there's really not anything that will prevent it at this point from going up and touching that area. Alright, now somebody will need to look at the 6B, and after we look at the 6B, I'm actually going to go through the meter, okay? You are getting a magenta peak here, and you are very overextended over here on the 45-minute chart, okay? If you wanted to trade this magenta peak back to the ATR at 7102, like on the indices, what you would have done was entered, let's see, I don't think you've really had a test of this ATR yet. Should come down and test the ATR now, and then that may give you an entry. Yeah, because you got your congestion dot up here as well. It should bounce up from here. The only thing that may prevent that bounce up from here, if they break this, it's because they're coming down to 70-30 gig. They could do it because you haven't had divergence on the 45-minute yet. Normally you would have divergence before the magenta peak comes in. I'm not seeing it right now. Now, for those of you that remember that were in the room yesterday, okay, I told you that the dollar was overextended because it was getting up here to 50. I also told you that the Swiss franc was oversold, the euro was oversold, the New Zealand was oversold. Can't remember if the Aussie was. No, the Aussie never got below the negative 50 line. Okay? So the dollar did go down yesterday. So anything like the USD Swiss franc, after the session opened at 9:30, we did see downward movement on the dollar. What I would have done was choosing the currencies that were going up towards the dollar. Yesterday, the example was the USD JPY. So I would have went short on the USD JPY because the yen was gaining in strength, whereas the dollar was going down. You also had the same scenario, Swiss franc going up, dollar coming down. Euro going up, dollar coming down. This is what we look for. Okay? You also see that earlier this morning, the British pound was going down, the euro was going up. Okay? Those are the types of patterns that I look for in the meter. This is all based on currency futures. Okay? So it tells me when the dollar is strong, when the Aussie is strong or weak, when the British pound is strong or weak, when the euro is strong or weak. Same for the yen, same for the New Zealand, same for the Swiss franc. Now, you were asking me specifically about the British pound. Do you see how close this is to 50? In the fact that this is oversold right now? I would wait because I think you're going to get an upward movement on that. And the upward movement will be better than what this downward movement is going to be because it's already overextended. Do you understand that, Gig? When you get the ADX and the RSI telling you that it's overextended, at least my RSI, then usually that is exactly what's going to happen. It's going to reverse. And I don't mean reverse in the sense of we're going to have a market trend direction change, but it will retrace. To get a confirmed entry, I would prefer to see the magenta peak come in here, Andrew. If you're real aggressive, you can wait for this to come down and test the 70-88 area. Okay? It has to do it on diverging volume. If it does it on diverging volume, then you could actually take that trade. Okay? Yeah, it's like a rubber band. It's been stretched to the limit. Well, the only thing that the 1440 is telling you, Chris, is that we're in an uptrend. The conflict today, okay, is actually between the 720-minute and the 180-minute. Humphrey, the GBP USD is going to have exactly the same. There's not going to be any difference. For example, this one, if it comes down to 70.83, which is, 5 ticks away from this ATR, if it does it on diverging volume, it's going to pop back up. Okay. Let's see here. And most of these trades that we've had in the last couple of days, look, I told y'all about them at 8 o'clock in the morning. See, this is the British pound US dollar, okay? When you look at this and you look at this over here, they're going to be the same. Basically, they are the same. What's the first area it's going to come to, Humphrey? Is it going to come to the congestion dot on the 180 first or the one on the 720 first? It's going to come here first. When it gets here, you have to wait and see what happens. I think it's going to bounce up from there, just because you're so overextended. Now, I've seen it before where it could go up to 90. I would be looking at the volume to tell me. I think it's going to take out that last low on the 45 minute. Because that would give you your divergence that tells you the magenta peak is probably going to come in. That's currently at 87, okay? Your ATR over here on the 3 minute is at 88. Normally, it will come back and take out this low because I need the low to give me the divergence. For those of you that follow my Google Plus, I posted this, I think it was Monday or Tuesday. You could have done a binary here to the downside. You could have turned around and done a binary here to the upside. You could have done a binary here to the downside. You could have done a binary here to the upside. Then you could have done another binary. Let me see the volume on it. You could have done another binary here to the downside. I mean, the congestion areas are really sweet. So, what do you need to give you divergence on the 45-minute chart? You need a new low, because right now there's no divergence. Okay, so I need a price bar that goes at least to 86. So it may pop down and hit 83. Why 83? Why is that a magical number? Because that's where the congestion dot is. Does everybody understand that now? Do you always get the divergence? Not always, but I do look for it. Yeah, you need volume on a lower low. You know, Andrew, it hasn't been moving very much lately. Other than the DAX. The DAX moves no matter what it is. The Russell level, sure. Give it a minute to load. Right now you're right at the congestion dot at 1141.4, Chris. You also have an ATR at 1136.4 on the 12 minute. You have 1144.2 on the 45 minute. 1152.9. You're almost overextended here, so we could go back to 1166. You are going to come down right now because I think you're going to make a magenta peak because you just had divergence here. Divergence typically will actually set off the magenta peak. Okay. Let's go look at the NQ. Okay, the NQ, the important one today is 3857. That's where your ATR is on the daily. On the 720, you have an ATR at 3885. You have congestion dots at 3946.5 on the 180. And you have an ATR at 3916 on the 45 minute. It's got to clear here first. That is at 3906.5. Unemployment came in at 302, which is better than anticipated. Building permits came in lower than anticipated at 96.96. You do see that you've got divergence here on the 12-minute. You see that they're not flipping this ATR here. I'll show you the easiest divergence to spot. Go over to the DAX. What we do, Andrew, is we read the divergence on the way back to the ATR. So you have a high here. I know it's a high because the volume bar is blue. We have another high here. The volume bar is blue. That tells me it made a high. Then we have another high here. Then it simply is the volume bars increasing or decreasing. They're actually decreasing. The delta, which is this little hash mark, is also decreasing. That's your divergence. So as price was going higher, volume was going lower. That's very, very simplistic overview of it. At the seminars, we actually spend a day just learning the volume aspect of it. Because as simple as it looks, it's a little bit hard. Just like right now, you see as you're making these highs going back to this, it's actually decreasing volume as it stands right now. You also see it over on the 1 minute. You can see that the volume was building, building, building. Sellers stepped in. There's your divergence. We were talking about the USD JPY earlier today because you see that the yen is moving up and the dollar is moving down. What would you anticipate off of that? You would anticipate the US dollar JPY, USD being the first symbol, is weak. Yen being the second symbol is strong. First symbol you need to go short on because it's weak. Pulls back to the ATR here and then comes down. That's exactly what you would anticipate it to do. I think the other one was the euro pound. Where is that? Again, this is British pound is weak. The euro is stronger. Okay. So the euro is going to go up. The British pound is going to go down. You would go long on the British pound. Gig, send me an email and I'll tell you. I won't say it in the room though. As long as they pretty much hold price down. You know, I don't really like to say just because it closed above the congestion dots, it makes it congestion dots invalid, because sometimes it's almost like a mathematical noise. It might close one tick above those congestion dots. I like to see a strong close above them, Gig. Yes, Humphrey, what is your question? Mika, probably about 50%. If they're there from 2 days ago and they're still valid, yeah. There was one of them, it might have been the British pound actually. I believe it had a row of them. Yeah. Do you see how you had this row of congestion dots? To me, they were still valid. I don't go over my weekly average at all, Humphrey. We have too many rules and regulations for me to start throwing out percentages. Your percentage is going to be based on what you do, not on what I do. Oh, the baby's doing good. No, what I said in the webinar is that you only have to be 40% as accurate. I do not give out my percentages, period. It's very misleading to anybody. Yeah, it opens up a whole can of worms, and it's not really something I would want to. Oh, you didn't, Mika. Don't worry about it, hon. With a 1 to 3 risk to reward ratio, yeah, that's all you need. You notice, Dan? Yeah, again, this goes back to, hey, come watch me trade and watch how much money I can make. It sounds great. It really does. And it would probably make everybody in this room buy the platinum package, okay? But I put 15 years in to get that good. And I have the ability to hyper-focus. Oh, yeah, I am. There's no doubt I'm good. I know I'm good. And I'm not saying that from an egotistical standpoint either. But I watch the markets anywhere from 18 to 20 hours a day. Why do you think you can replicate it, Humphrey? I've done trades in the room. I've done trades in the webinar, have I not, guys? How many of you have ever saw me take a trade in this room? That's not what this room is about, Humphrey. This room is to educate traders so that they can trade on their own. I already know how to trade. How many of you were in the room yesterday at 8 o'clock and I showed the Dow? Yeah, you really do. How many of you were in the room yesterday morning and I told you to watch because when it gets to 170.69 it's going to come down? I know how many people were in the room and I know everybody heard me say that. Now tell me what the Dow did. it hit. That was the high of the day, not within a tick. I told you what the high of the day was going to be. In other words, you could have sold 170.69 and you would have made, as it stood right now, down to 16,981. That's about 80 points. Now tell me, who did it? And that's why my average is good, because I will do it. Well, if you're late to the room, I can't help it, because I told everybody in the room the high of the day is going to be 170.69. If you're late to the game, ain't my fault. That's exactly right, Dave. Well, thank you, Dan. On crude today, probably could tell you. Crude today, the high is probably going to be right about 103.78. Because that is the only thing that's going to stop price, Andrew. The only thing. That's my secret mathematical formula. Yeah, there's nothing to stop it. Absolutely nothing to stop it. There's no congestion dots anywhere. Nowhere. And when you get something like this and it's going up, 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 you see this value at 88? You don't have anything to stop that until it gets right up here to 103.75, 103.78. You have to go long until you get a magenta peak, and I don't see a magenta peak coming in until this gets up to right at 103.75. There's nothing to stop it right now. And this is really, really a high ADX value here. Really high. But what's going to stop price? You might get a retracement back to 102.3 because you got a magenta peak in here, but that's the only thing I can see. And I still think they're going to pop it up and hit that and then take it down. Crude is kind of unique, Dan. They'll pull back all in one bar and then take it right back down. They're trying to find a place to support price to go up, but they hadn't found it yet. On the Dow, the only place that's really had any support for price is right here at 170.03. Yeah, it can be used the same way with the congestion dots. The congestion dots, in my mind, are about as revolutionary as that volume indicator is. It truly is. You know, but, and again, I'm not saying it to be egotistical, but I tell you what, the meter told us yesterday to go short on the dollar. There were so many ways that you could have done that. You could have shorted the actual dollar index, okay? Or you could have waited, for example, when the yen started moving up. Okay, this is going to give you your first trade. Once they're both moving towards each other, you're going to get a good trade out of it. On the euro British pound this morning, you had excellent trades off of it. You had excellent opportunities on both the USD Swiss franc and the Euro US dollar. We knew those trades were coming in at 8 o'clock yesterday morning. I told y'all they were. It's uncanny the way this, this stuff actually works together. It's just uncanny. But it does. Somebody wanted the Russell again. No, because I don't lose sight of what I need to do. I always treat the market with the respect that it deserves. Always. I take every trade just like it's my very first trade. You don't ever trade without knowing a rate announcement's coming up. The first thing that you have to do is check market reports. Always. Am I an engineer? Oh no. Engineers actually have a harder time trading, Bonnie, than anybody else. Because I've got a lot of engineers as clients, and they do have a hard time. Okay, somebody wanted to look at the Russell this morning. Let me make sure I did that. You're not quite oversold here. This is a flat magenta peak, guys, so be careful with this one. It may come back and test this low before that actual retracement comes in. And that would coincide with what the 12-minute is saying too, because 12 minutes should come back to around 1136.9. You just had a major divergence at the congestion dot. I love these congestion dots. I could trade them all day. The low today, I'm looking at it. I don't think we've put it in yet, actually, Andrew. I think we're going to see a new low today because I think it's going to come back and take out this low. That's the reason we have a flat magenta peak here. It's not a pointed top. Shorted what, Humphrey? I wouldn't have shorted the Russell. I don't trade the Russell. Which market are you talking about? No, you don't trade the Russell during London. It's not a good market to trade during London. The Russell really is strictly a U.S. session indice. You can trade the Dow, you can trade the NASDAQ, you can trade the ES, okay? But I don't mess with the Russell during the London session. If you look, do you see how gappy this is? You don't ever trade anything that looks like this. And the articles that I did on the indices, I did the articles 3 or 4 years ago, but they still hold true today. And if you're really wanting to maximize your profitability, in the market that you're trading, you would be trading the DAX, because the DAX moves more than any indice that on the U.S. side, and it does it 24 hours a day. I think that's the major Dow. This is the E-mini Dow. DAX volume. It's on the Eurex gig. You would like trading the DAX gig. 1154 is on what market, Andrew? On the Russell? Today, 1154? Are you talking about price or what? Or time? You're going to have resistance at 1144. So I'll just draw these on here for you. You're going to have resistance at 1144. You're going to have another area of resistance at 1152 as it stands right now. Then you're going to have another level of resistance at 1166. Yep. Now, that's in addition to the resistance that you have at 1142, which corresponds to this 3-minute over here. Okay? So you have, you're going to have to clear this one. You're going to have to clear this one. Then you would have to clear this one before making it on up to this one. And I just don't see enough buyers coming in that will do that. It doesn't matter if you use candlesticks or the open, high, low, close bars. I do have a version for that one. It's actually just an option on the input. Let me bring it up to you for you real quick. We'll do open, high, low, close, and we'll do this one, and this one. We'll do this as a 3-minute. Give me a minute and let me set up the chart, Bonnie, and I'll show it to you. This is the open, high, low, close, and see that we plot the dots on there for you. I don't like the dots, and I don't like trying to read these bars. You can see that the open is to the left, the close is to the right, but that takes more focus than it does using a candlestick. A candlestick, the focus is, you know this is a red bar. It closed on the low, okay? And it's just an input that I added to the trend. If you want to use candlesticks, you set it to true. If you want to use the dots, you set it to false. But now I know if it's a hollow candlestick, which means it's not filled, okay, the close is at the top, the open is at the bottom where the body starts. Whereas on the solid ones, the top of the body is the open and this is the close. So it's just more visual, and my eyes are getting bad. So let's see. Yeah, I think somebody told me it was 23 euros for the Eurex. So no, as long as your symbols are in that instrument panel, Keith, that I showed you yesterday, it should work. Oh, I love the DAX. Absolutely, positively love the DAX. And I don't have any trouble with the volume on it. No, it doesn't. You're looking purely at the direction, Artemis. You know, if this is going up or if this is coming down. That's all you're checking on. I haven't had any trouble on the DAX with volume on the binaries. The dollar index down. What about the dollar index? It's been a very slight divergence right here on the low. That's what caused the magenta peak to come in. It's retraced back to the ATR. Right now there's no buyers coming in, so DAX trades this morning. You flip this ATR, it went back to this ATR, did it on divergence, came back down to here, but there's no divergence on this one. It goes back up to here, okay, still giving you divergence on the highs, gives you divergence on the highs here, again here, you have divergence here, and then you had divergence here. So every one of them was saying there was absolutely no buyers in this market. And you could have done that several different ways. You could have traded the binaries on it, which I traded some of the binaries on it. You could have traded the future contract on it. I mean, you could have done it any way you wanted to. You could have done a combination and said, okay, I'm going to go short the futures and also short on the binaries. You could have hedged, okay? You could have went short on the futures and went long on the binaries. Either one you wanted. There were so many ways to trade that this morning. These aren't the same level. This is lower than this one. This is lower than this one. All of these are blue in here, and showing you there's divergence. And then here you made a high, but it was lower than this one. Any other questions, guys? It was actually a really nice morning. If you're overseas, Andrew, I would suggest the silver package. No problem, Humphrey. Because it has the Kickstart Your Trading seminar, not seminar, webinar in it. And I think it's about 40 hours of video training. And that's the one, if I was overseas and I couldn't get to a live seminar, that's the one I would do. Yeah, silver with the annual is a great deal. Because then you get entry into all of the webinars I do for the next 12 months. And you get 10% off right now. I extended that one. Yeah, but you have to make up your mind whether you want to be a trader and own your own business or whether you want to be a franchise holder. And if you want to be a franchise holder, then you just trade along with someone else. And there's plenty of those rooms. There's never one that I've seen that's very successful. The person running the room might be successful, but the people that are trading it are not. That are actually in the room. But, you know, this is experience that you learn, okay? You actually realize in trading there's no franchises. Well, most of them can't even make money following someone like that. There is a 10% discount, Andrew, if you enter in Las Vegas. I extended that until July 31st, I think it was. So when you check out, you just enter, there's a coupon code, it says Las Vegas. You enter that and it takes 10% off. Oh, yeah, it's still valid for silver. I added silver to it. I added the silver, the seminar, and the platinum package to that one coupon code. I didn't want to create different coupons. I was being lazy. It's Las Vegas. No, Christian, I'll send you a GoToMeeting request. You don't even need to call me. Did you get the coupon code, Andrew? Yeah, but put a space in between Las and Vegas. It's LAS space VEGAS. You're getting divergence on the Russell right at the 12-minute, because congestion dot. Now that bar does not finish until 9:12, so there's basically another 7 minutes. If that holds, it's going to come down at least to 1137.3. A lot of people are lost in space, so don't feel bad. Okay, any other questions? Because I do have some appointments this morning. All right, I hope everybody has a wonderful day. If you missed any part of the recording, I am going to put it up online, okay? So I hope everybody, right now I've only got 3 slots available, Humphrey. All right, everybody have a wonderful weekend. I'll be back same time, same place next week. Oh, you're welcome, Keith. Anytime.